And we're live on Faz Radio. Welcome, Mr. Bitbender of LFG Incorporated.
Hello, Faz. How are you doing this evening, sir?
Good. Mr. Bitbender has agreed not to drop any F-bombs in the first 60 seconds, is it, of this cast?
I said I would try.
Oh, okay.
I said I would try.
All right. So, I think we got a lot of interested people today. We have 18 people. We have a lot. That's big for us. This cast is still an unpaid, non-monetized hobby cast that maybe one day will become a big cast like all the big people in the world. But in the meantime,
one can hope.
One can hope. And so occasionally we get good guests that we can ask some questions of. And since Faz Radio has followed Gala Games for quite a while, this seemed kind of related. So sure. We're talking to you're the president of LFG Incorporated, correct?
One of the founders.
One of the founders. So I'm going to open up the floor to you first and ask, what the fuck is LFG?
Sure. So basically, LFG was created out of the need. Really, it's very much a need to see Gala grow beyond Gala. Gala has had a really hard time, and a lot of people in your channel have pointed this out with varying degrees of politeness over the years. Has really had a hard time getting out of its own way. And so LFG is essentially this, look, this is stuff that needs to be done. If it can't be done internally, it's necessary for the service of the entire ecosystem. I'm going to go do it externally. And so that's what LFG is. It is me and a group of primarily Web3 natives from Gala who decided to go and start something to advance the Gala chain and Gala node ecosystem outside of Gala, without the sort of strictures and controls and sort of Web 2 ishness that Gala sort of has about it, to push things in what we feel is the right direction.
Is that your final answer?
That's my final answer.
All right. It sounds a little vague, like you have this amorphous mission.
It is a vague amorphous mission. It's whatever is necessary to achieve the end goal of building a better ecosystem. I mean, I could give you a bullet point list, but shit changes, so I'm not going to, and I don't necessarily feel the need to come out and say, well, our roadmap is this, because we don't have a token, we're not doing a raise, we don't particularly care what a lot of people think. I definitely don't care what a lot of the people that you have in your channel think about this. I'm doing this mostly because I know that it's something that you will appreciate, and there are a few people that I do want to make sure have access to information, and so here I am doing this.
All right, you're coming out swinging. All right,
Faz, I don't give a fuck. I do not give a fuck. Just to be very clear,
Mr. Brink has lost all of his fucks. Just want to let you know. Yes. We can say this now because it's after 60 seconds. He's lost all of his fucks, and he's going to be dead honest with you about anything that you want to know about. I will try and keep
clear. I always have been. Okay. It's not that this is not a new thing. I just how do I put it? I don't have some of the governors in place that I previously had in terms.
Are you saying you were held back in the past?
Oh, very much so.
Okay. So we're going to see a new Bitbender. Okay. All right. I can just tell you kind of tuned.
Let's do it, man.
All right. So the purpose of LFG, let me see if I can repeat this, is, I'm assuming it means let's fucking go, right?
It means let's fight giants.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it means whatever LFG thing you want it to mean.
So it's lame fucking gun.
I mean, it could be lame fucking gun if you want.
So its purpose, it sounds like it's to fill in holes in a process. Is this
okay? Well, so let me give you a very specific example. Okay, Gala is, and this is not a surprise, has a lot of Web 2 sort of thinking around it, a lot of people that are very Web 2 within it. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It is one of the things that is necessary for Web 3 to succeed. Okay. It can't all be, running and gunning, super fast, quick go to market stuff. There has to be structure. There has to be, controls in place. There has to be your, normal business things, because that's what's necessary for a lot of sort of the bigger establishments that you would work with. That's a very important and critical thing. On the other hand, it also introduces a lot of slowdown in the process. So if I wanted to, for example, go to an event, take part of my business development team to an event, the process for that is to bye, Faz. I hope everything's okay. I'll just keep talking. The process for that is, involves putting together a proposal, putting together a cost summary for it, figuring out if it makes sense, what's the ROI, going into the event with the sort of perspective of, okay, well, what is the thing that we have to do at the event to make the company make, X number of dollars that pays for the event, sort of thing. All of that is part of that process. But the problem is that a lot of times, especially with Web3 events, you don't necessarily have a metric that you can hang a dollar figure on and say, this event is going to make this much money. Well, if you can't say that it is going to make this much money with some sort of set certainty, then very frequently the answer is, well, then don't go to the event. Okay? Because why would you do the thing that, from a Web 2 perspective, doesn't actually make you the money that you need to justify doing that? Now, from a Web 3 perspective, it's something that I feel very strongly about, which is why I go to a lot of these events on my own, because I feel that it is important to build the brand, build the business, talk to people, bring people into the ecosystem. And so, that was something that was very hard for me to do at Gala internally. But externally, if I feel that this is a thing that, if going to Token 2049, if doing a big thing at Token 2049 at LFG to bring more people onto Galachain, if that makes sense, and I think it makes sense from a Web3 perspective, I can just do it. I don't have to ask anyone if I can do it. Okay.
So you're there. Okay. It does sound a little bit like you're filling a hole, like Gala isn't doing itself. So somebody asked the question, because it sounds like you're tightly integrated. You're still a bit integrated with Gala. Are you able? Well, I'll get to that.
I'm an advisor. I'm still an advisor. That hasn't changed.
Does that mean that you will be advising other companies besides Gala?
Yes, of course. Okay. Absolutely.
So you're not just Gala centric then?
Well, Gala centric splitting hairs here a little bit. Gala centric in terms of Gala the company centric, or Gala the ecosystem centric? Because it is very much a Gala the ecosystem centric, but there are a lot of companies. For example, I've been talking to the guys over at Voyager a lot. The guys over at Voyager are not part of Gala Games. However, they are building stuff on galachain. I am advising them on some of that and about how to, do things within the ecosystem, but that has nothing to do with Gala, the company.
Do you guys work with the nodes now and Gala does not? Is that something that
Gala still does and can, and they're doing a lot of their own projects that make use of the node infrastructure. We're going to be helping a lot of people, run their own projects using node infrastructure as well. So that doesn't, that's not a one or the other thing. Anyone can do that. You can do that.
Why? Okay, so I'm trying to figure out why you guys split off, but I think you've explained it a little bit there. It feels like somebody had asked, if someone doesn't trust Gala, why should they trust LFG?
Oh, I don't need anyone to trust me. I don't care. The whole point of Web3 is not about trust. You're not supposed to have to trust me. You're supposed to look at what I do, and if you want to use the things that I make available to you, then by all means do so. But I don't care if you trust me or not.
I'm thinking if somebody doesn't trust Gala, they're not trusting them because they might not deliver on the game or NFTs or a feature or something like that.
And to be clear, that's not always Gala's fault. You know, a lot of times, again, with third parties and even to a certain extent internal teams, you know, that's not necessarily Gala the company's fault. You know, I understand how people get, you know, upset about it, how they have their pet projects that they really like to see. You know, this is something that that I've seen a lot, you know, sort of within your community. There's always, you know, pet projects that people are very enamored with that you know, they really assign a great deal of significance to. You know, but that really doesn't have anything to do with LFG or my team or anything like that, and oftentimes doesn't have anything to do with Gala.
Okay. So you're going to have a number of people working there with you, right?
Yeah, we have 15 right now.
15 people currently employed by you guys?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Will you be having your own Discord, that kind of thing, or?
Likely eventually. Right now, we're sort of serving the same role as moderators in the existing Gala Discord. But we have our own role, but nothing special, but just moderators, essentially. Eventually, we will have our own.
I thought I heard somewhere something about you saying you guys are unpaid advisors now.
Well, I am an unpaid advisor of Gala. I am also unpaid at LFG because I'm the one paying for everything right now.
Well, I thought you were. Didn't you tweet something on Twitter recently? Well, not recently, like a month ago, something about having to make a mortgage or something. Was that because you were putting all this together?
I mean, no, I'm a normal human being who has a house and pays a mortgage. You know, that's a fairly normal thing. I think most people who have houses have mortgages. That's not a
so this is all you then that you're putting this together.
Yes.
It's not like that this money came from Gala and then
no, it 100% did not come from Gala.
Okay, 100%. It's all you. Okay.
Yeah, I'm currently, you know, going to the bank and sending pain in the ass wires and things like that to pay for setting PEOs up to say again.
To the 15 employees. To the 15 employees.
Well, no, not to the 15 employees. We're setting up a PEO thing, which is professional employment organization, which is used to comply with local laws in whatever country it is that people are employed in. And so that's being set up right now. And so I've been, you know, dealing with that and stuff.
Okay. Let's see here. You might have gone over this, but maybe we do it in a little bit more detail. How does LFG make money?
So LFG can make money in a few different ways. If you were to go back and look at some of my tweets over the past month where I talk, or not months since the beginning of the year, really, the big tweet threads where I talk about, you know, ways that you can onboard people to galachain and the way that works in terms of the gas burn rebate and things like that. Anyone who's in the Gala ecosystem right now is seeing, okay, on a daily basis, if they've referred a bunch of people and those people are doing things that burns Gala, they're getting a little bit of Gala back from that. So that's part of it. One is we work with companies, we refer companies, we help them integrate, we help them build on galachain, and hopefully they do something that becomes wildly successful and we get a portion of the gas that's burnt in the efforts that they're pursuing. That's one. The other thing that we can do, and we've got some of these coming up over the next few weeks, is we work with companies to help them stand up their own node sales. Specifically for those companies, completely off the Gala platform, using galachain, using the Gala node ecosystem, you know, software, but not executed on the Gala platform. So it's not a thing where you'd have to go to the Gala store to purchase these. This is their own thing, and it just happens to use galachain. And so rather than taking a, you know, percentage, sorry, rubber band just popped on my desk. Rather than taking a, you know, Gala, I think takes a 30% cut. LFG takes 15%. And the sale itself, you know, revenue goes to the person or the project as soon as the sale happens. So Hey, there's Chair Bandit. He's one of the people who came over with me to LFG. But that 15% goes immediately to the project, and this is one of the other projects one of the other problems with sort of the Web 2 way of Gala doing things is that most payments to people who are selling things are like net 30 or net 60. In Web 3, net 30 or net 60 doesn't work. It's a fucking nightmare. Now, I get it from a certain perspective, like if you have credit card payments, right? Somebody pays with a credit card, you have to hold it for a certain amount of time to protect against chargebacks, things like that. But if somebody's paying with crypto, then it should immediately go to the person who's selling the thing, like that, not on a net 30 basis. And so that's sort of like the Web 2-ishness that is stuff that I'm like, guys, we have to stop doing this. Okay, if we're not going to stop doing it right away, then I'm going to go outside and start doing it a different way to show you how it can work.
That's an interesting way that you're talking about being paid and stuff. Can other companies work with Gala in the same way that you guys do?
Absolutely, of course. I've already started conversations with like Forged in Crypto and a few other people. Yes, of course. By all means, please. The more, the merrier.
Well, I've heard that it's been hard to get Gala to work with other people. That's taken a long time. Are these some of the wheels that you're going to be here to kind of help grease?
I'm trying to grease these wheels as we go through this process, because this doesn't work if everything has to be like held inside the Gala platform. Just doesn't work. We need to be able to have people building outside of the Gala platform in a much broader, audience and context, and being able to do stuff without ever touching the Gala platform. That's absolutely critical. And so part of this is a little bit of a forcing function in that it kind of makes the need for that stuff extra urgent. And so I hopefully we're able to get this stuff, implemented so that we can actually start doing what we need to do. And we're working on other ways to do what we need to do as well, if that doesn't work. But, so that people can actually start, building on galachain in a much more robust fashion.
Okay. One more question about the money, and I'll be done for now. I touched on this a little bit. How is this envisioned to scale? Is there someone else besides Gala that you expect to be paying you?
No,
because you had mentioned that you might be doing things. You might be doing things for more than just Gala, and so
yes,
I'm like, and if you're making a company that's going to be, I'm trying to figure out if you guys are focusing completely on Gala or you're going to open up your services for other people, other companies.
Again, distinction here, but it is a distinction with a difference. When you say Gala, do you mean Gala the company or do you mean Gala the ecosystem?
Either, both. I mean, is there a different answer for?
Yes, there's different answers.
Okay.
So we're not focusing on Gala the company.
Okay.
At all.
Okay.
At all. Full stop. Okay. What we are focused on is Gala the ecosystem. And Gala the ecosystem is everyone who builds on galachain. I believe that the technology that galachain represents and that the node network and the node workload concept represents is phenomenal and can change the way that things happen. Change the way things happen. And so that's what we are working for. And so if you for example, have a project and you want to come do something with us, okay, you need us to advise, you need us to facilitate conversations, you need us to connect you with other people in Web3. That's what we're here to do. Now, that is all in service of the Gala ecosystem, which does benefit the company, sure, but it's the ecosystem is the most important thing for us here.
Okay, let's build on that then. This node network, that the Gala node network, is that node network decentralized?
What do you mean? The node network is obviously decentralized. Is that what are you trying to ask though? That's not what you're asking. Somebody is. This might be one of those reading mean tweets things. What is the question that's actually being asked?
That's an introductory question. I'm not trying to do a gotcha here. I'm asking if it's decentralized because what I understand, and maybe there's part of it that's not. Maybe that part of it is. My understanding is that the Gala Games the Gala blockchain is a private permissioned blockchain.
This is true.
And now the node network itself, just the nodes, the very fact that they're in different places, you could say that they're decentralized. But what I'm actually building to is if you're providing all these services for the Gala ecosystem, is this ecosystem, I'll ask it differently, is this ecosystem decentralized or is it all reliant upon one company, Gala?
The ecosystem is decentralized. The ecosystem is incredibly decentralized.
With
parts of it are more centralized than I would certainly like, but this is true of pretty much any blockchain at this point in time, unless it is. And this is where the caveat is, unless it's like Ethereum or Bitcoin. Okay. Because, if you're looking at pick a ZK, pick an L2, pick a whatever you want. Those oftentimes have heavy degrees of centralization that are necessary for them to actually function. Do you hope it's not you, but does this ecosystem hope to be there where it's decentralized as Ethereum and blockchain? In the end, absolutely, I would hope so. That's what I want to see at least.
Okay,
so if Gala decides not to do that and they're like, whatever, we're not doing what you want, Jason, you don't work here anymore, then, that's obviously up to them. But that doesn't change the fact that that's where I want to see this go.
The reason people ask about the decentralization of the node network and the blockchain is, what if Gala Games gets shut down or sanctioned by the SEC for, I don't know, invent a reason? Probably not as much today because the SEC just got their winky stomped. But but what they're worried about is if one company holds a lot of, I don't know, the keys to the kingdom, they can be shut down. They can be stopped. This blockchain can go away, pretty quickly.
So I once had a very interesting conversation with a lawyer. This was when I started working at Gala. I met him at a blockchain event in London, I believe it was. And he had a very interesting conversation about what it would take to shut down Bitcoin, shutting down the Bitcoin blockchain. And what he said is that, shutting something like that down, even something as large as Bitcoin, would not be nearly as hard as the maxis like to think it is. Now, of course, yes, there would always be somebody running something, but you could pretty easily zero in on the traffic and do exactly what they did with file sharing services back in the day and make it prohibitively shitty for anyone who touched it. Take a couple Bitcoin people, make absolute brutal examples like they did to that one chick who downloaded, what was it, like Now 1995 or some shit like that, where she ended up having to pay, $16 million in fines or something like that because she was sharing it on Napster way back in the day. They could make it prohibitively shitty for anybody. And that's with Bitcoin. Okay. This is always something that is true on any network that exists out there. It is, I don't think it's any more true with Gala than it is with any other major blockchain. Again, with the minor exception of Ethereum and Bitcoin. All of them suffer from some degree of risk. There's always some sort of, multi-sig contract that, a bunch of people have that controls whether or not shit gets shipped. There's always upgrades. There's always, somewhere there's a degree of centralization that exists inside of something. Now, the trick here is not to go for absolute, total, complete 1000% decentralization, because stuff stops working very quickly if you do. It's the problem with anarchy. Okay.
Is Bitcoin 1000% decentralized?
No, I would not say it is. There's a few very large miners who control a tremendous amount of hash power. And Bitcoin, if any state actually gave a shit, they could kill Bitcoin.
They're getting money they're getting some money through this process.
Of course they are. But that's my point is you can't tell me that China couldn't turn on enough hash power as a state to kill Bitcoin. You can't tell me that.
Well, actually, from what I understand, it would become an arms race. I mean, if China started to do that, other countries would then start to do that as well.
They might, but then suddenly now you have a handful of countries, and everyone else who isn't a fucking nation state suddenly is locked out.
All right.
And I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, who's going to win the race?
Well, that's a good question. The United States has done very good at outspending its enemies, no matter who they are.
Sure.
The United States could win that one if it wanted to. I would assume maybe, but then they'd have to. Again, they would have to control an actively used fork, because Bitcoin is not the way that it is right now. The currently dominant fork of Bitcoin doesn't allow people to control it. I mean, I think we'd have to focus a lot more on crypto in the world, and I think a lot of the world just wishes for crypto to go away.
Yeah, no, of course. But my point only is that there's always a risk. That's why and you do everything that you can to mitigate it, but there's always a risk. Always.
So, okay. So are there, because you're talking about supporting the ecosystem, the Gala ecosystem, that's what makes me worry about the blockchain itself. Being a private permission blockchain, feds could go right after that. And then what do you have?
I mean, so
you have a decentralized node network, but if the permission blockchain doesn't work.
So you switch. I mean, worst case scenario here, absolute worst case scenario, someone just open sources the shit and you start running it and you work from a point of decentralization there. People can already access the SDK.
Mm-hmm. So you're saying that somebody can come up with a fork?
Sure. Why not?
Okay, sure.
Well, I mean, what do you want me to say? That if the United States decided to start,
no, I'm thinking if the SEC decided to shut down Gala Games because they felt
have they shut really anything?
I said if we're talking about potentials, not have they? They haven't yet.
So if we're going to start talking about potentials, let's take a potential that actually makes sense here, not like
They've been threatening to do that kind of stuff to lots of different people. They have said everything but Bitcoin is probably a security.
Yes, they've said that.
So they didn't name Gala yet, but they could be named next week.
No, they could at any point in time. I'm not saying that they can't or won't. I'm just saying that you're taking something and you're presenting it. God, man, are you Titan? What happened here? You're taking a this is like the conspiracy theory shit, man. Where's your tinfoil?
Titan hasn't even gotten to questions that Titan would ask, but I'm really trying to narrow in. I'm really trying to narrow into why people really make a big deal about decentralization and companies.
Well, of course, people make a big deal about decentralization. It's fucking dumb not to, obviously. But that doesn't mean that simply because things exist on a spectrum of decentralization, from absolute total centralization exists only in a database, to decentralization of absolutely complete.
I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about an absolute situation. I'm just talking about what
you're talking about. A pretty absolute situation. You're talking. You're talking about nuclear Armageddon for the entire crypto industry if they decide to start doing that. Yes, you are. Well, yes, you are. Because then what that means is that everyone who's running any sort of node, anyone who's broadcasting any sort of transaction, anyone who's doing anything like that would now suddenly, immediately, okay, be guilty of a whole host of federal crimes. Everybody in crypto, anybody who's ever signed a transaction,
they'll get amnesty. If they decide to do nuclear Armageddon, of course they'll get amnesty. They'll go after the big players, and they'll say, "Hey, anybody who's running them, just want to let you know they're not going to work." Anyway, we're not talking about
this is very Titan-esque at this moment. We've gone into like silly land. Really?
We can let your response sit there though. So I want to
no. Let's roll this back a little bit, okay? Because here is a concept. Now, I think we can all agree that centralization is, generally speaking, not a great thing. Okay? I think we can also all agree that centralization exists on a degree in every single project. Okay? Somehow, somewhere, there is someone, okay, even if it's a group of people, even if it's a multi-sig, that has the ability to control various functions on most contracts. If you relinquish control of the contract, that's great. Now there's just no one. You have an entirely different type of tyranny, okay? Even in events like that, if there is a breach, if there is a contract upgrade that has to happen, now suddenly you're having to go through an entirely different fucking pile of shit to get the thing done that you want to get done. Okay? Everywhere, in every single project, there is some degree of centralization, which is why things actually get done. On totally decentralized projects, completely decentralized projects out there, okay, there isn't usually a lot that actually happens. Even in the case of EIPs and BIPs and all of these things, there's a very small group of people, okay, that is active, that puts these things together and ships them out. A very small, in terms of number of individuals, who contribute the hash power necessary to pass votes. Very few people are contributing to staking and actively getting involved with these things. So there is always a degree of centralization. It's the way that it works.
Exactly. So that is, I'm glad you did come back around that. That is what people are worried about. And when they
but you're making this a thing where you're pointing at Gala and saying that, oh, people are worried about Gala. No, people should be worried about fucking everything.
So you've been trying to really take the reins on this, and I don't think I've gotten my question out completely, and I'm happy to let you talk as long as you are about things, because I want to learn about things. But I don't think I've gotten my point across that people ask about projects' level of decentralization because they want to know how vulnerable it is to regulation. Okay, so this is not acting in an absolute way. This is not a Titan question. This is just me wanting to get some bearings on how much decentralization is here. So you had mentioned in the past that the nodes are decentralized.
Quite.
And we've already established that the blockchain itself is private and permissioned.
It is private and permissioned. There are partners that are now starting to stand up and run nodes. There's also ongoing decentralization work taking place. With some, I don't know how much of this I'm actually allowed to talk about, because but there's ongoing work that is being done essentially, and the goal obviously is decentralization and to be much more decentralized.
Okay.
And there's this spectrum, and you have to move from one side of the spectrum.
Right. And what I'm trying to do is get an idea of where on the spectrum the Gala ecosystem is, because that's what makes people feel all good and happy and squishy inside, is when they do not have to worry about the SEC coming down on whatever their favorite project is. If they're watching this, it would seem to me that they're very aware and they care a lot about the Gala ecosystem, even if they want to give it shit. Okay, so I
like how you're like, they care about things. Actually, no. Actually, they're just very aware and kind of they hope you get shot in the head. But moving on.
You're saying a lot of things that I'm not saying. I'm happy to let you say them, but we will get around to my questions. I'm happy to work with you here. So it sounds like I said, there's a decentralized portion and a non-decentralized portion, and we don't really have a good sense of how decentralized the entire shebang is. I mean, can anybody just kind of get into it, or is Gala always going to be in the middle of this?
Everything's always in the middle. There's nothing not in the middle. That's the part that I'm trying to get across that seems to not be hit.
If I want to make an NFT set for the Gala blockchain, can I just mint them on my own, or do I have to go through?
You can absolutely mint them on your own. Spin up your own instance. They're not going to be in basic asset channel, which, as you've pointed out, is something that currently Gala controls. But you can spin up your own instance of GalaChain and mint your own shit and do whatever you want.
Is that easy to do right now, or is anybody doing that?
It's like a 2-click install.
Is anybody doing that?
SDK? Yes.
People are doing this right now?
Yes.
Woo!
Dude, this is the thing. We've had hackathons. Gala has had hackathons.
Mm-hmm.
We are sponsoring shit. Okay, people are building things constantly. People are doing stuff constantly. NFTD is doing stuff constantly. All of these projects are doing things. It's not stuff where there's a person at Gala that's like, "Whoa, I don't know about this." That's not like. And this is, I think, why I take issue with some of these things, because there's a lot of criticism that comes from people who, and I'm not putting you in here, okay, Faz, this is not you, but there's a lot of criticism that comes from people that are just purely poorly informed. And they're poorly informed because they do not want to be informed. There are articles that are pushed out constantly. There are updates that are pushed out constantly. I have done dozens and dozens and dozens of hours of AMAs answering questions, and it doesn't matter because there are people who do not want to actually understand the ecosystem. Okay,
so there's a lot to unpack here, and I'm going to try to keep my memory about me. I've been a Microsoft ecosystem programmer for a long time. And what I really enjoy about the Microsoft ecosystem is that they have a website that gives me all sorts of technical information and downloads and SDKs and stuff like that.
Yep.
So I'm used to downloading DLLs, using them, and working with their services. I decided I wanted to put my zip bugs on the Gala blockchain, and I had to get an approved account. I had to be approved for it. And then I got access to this website, which I can put my NFTs there, but those NFTs have to be approved too. So now it sounds like you're saying from earlier that that's for like a main chain and not like something on the side.
Yeah, if you're doing something, if you're building a thing on your own, then yeah. And eventually, I think the next stage of this here, and again, I don't work there, okay? But the next stage of this is to get things to the point where they're outside of that part.
Okay, well, you made it sound like just a few minutes ago that nothing is stopping me from right now from putting things on the Gala blockchain.
No, nothing is. You can stand stuff up on your own.
And there are resources right now for me, and instructions for me to do this.
Yes, they're in the SDK.
The resources and the instructions are in the SDK to do all these things.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm wanting to make sure, because, and that's where I was leading with all of this, is how easy it is to build on the Gala ecosystem, and I wanted to know if the stuff was available yet, or if it was going to be built later. So
there's a lot that's available right now, and there's a lot that I know that they're working on to build later. And some of it, for example, standing up your own ISO chain or channel. That's a thing that needs to be able to happen. Right now, it's not a thing that happens in a decentralized process. That part of it isn't.
Okay. Nor
that's what I'm looking for. Critical Has it ever been claimed that it is? Okay.
No. I gotten that impression from you a few minutes ago that it was possible. That's all.
No, it is possible for you to stand up your own instance running your own local nodes, and you can do all sorts of interesting things with this. People have done it during hackathons and things like that.
So this was done by people at the hackathon, yes. And it's well enough documented to where anybody can do this, running on the
go ahead and
deployed node subsystem. No. Just my own nodes. It sounds like
running your own nodes, running on galachain. It isn't a think of it as a localized testnet. Okay, now it isn't which you could then expand if you.
So I could right now I could put my zip bugs on a localized testnet, and nobody would have to approve anything.
Yes, of course.
Okay, that's the background, the backing, or that's a lot of information that I'm getting for answering this next question. Is I wanted to know how decentralized it was, and it sounds like at the moment, if you want to really put things on the blockchain, to be used by everybody, and kind of like Ethereum is like, hey, let's put some NFTs out there. Well, I can't really do that. I mean, I can put it out for myself, but I can't really put it out for everybody unless I go through Gala.
Correct, and that's a problem, and that's why I'm fucking doing this.
Okay.
Are you very fucking clear?
Good. All right.
Okay.
So now let's. You finally moving on?
Yes, of course. I really hate the narrative that gets spun. Sometimes it's tiresome. I can see how me asking certain questions would certainly make people think that I'm going for the narrative, but I'm just looking for the details. I just want to know what's possible to do. And I know that any statement that's incomplete gets seized upon by critics. Dude, it doesn't even need to be an incomplete statement. It can be a fully complete statement, and you have assholes that'll clip a 3-second bit of this, which is going to show up on Twitter, not the whole fucking hour that we've been talking now. And they're going to clip that, and it's going to be like, ha, gotcha. So,
checkmate, Bitbender, gotcha. Okay.
Exactly.
Is there anything that you can tell us about the Gala hack?
I mean, a lot has been publicly released. I mean, articles.
It sounds like it was done by a contractor. You guys caught the guy, and this person has returned.
Not me. I didn't do this. Gala caught the guy.
Okay. So,
I was not part of this.
Yes. Sounds like it was done by a contractor. The guy was caught in some way.
As I understand it, and this is going from a lot of what Benefactor was saying in Gala Gold as well. Hopefully I don't get myself banned from Gala Gold for saying this. It was somebody who had, as they had interacted with the platform and whatnot previously, they had always used a VPN. And in one instance, their VPN failed. And when their VPN failed, their IP address, which was their home IP address, which was a known IP address to us, popped up. And so we were able to be like, aha.
Got him. So law enforcement was called in, and that compelled.
I don't know what happened as far as that goes. I don't know if I know that law enforcement was involved. I don't know whether somebody was actually picked up or what the situation was as far as that's concerned, but I know that they know exactly who it was.
Okay.
Good. That's what I know.
I have a follow-up question for that, but before that, let's put you at ease a little bit. I think you got some people on your side here.
All right. We'll see. We'll see. I'm sure there are other ones that you're not bringing up there right now.
Actually, I haven't looked. Here we go. Gala Gang. Faz is always getting cooked. No, they got you. They're on your side here.
Faz is a good guy. Faz is a good guy. I appreciate you, Faz.
I kind of feel like I'm saying some triggering things, and I'm willing to take the heat for it. I'm unpaid. This is a hobby, so I don't care.
Yeah, I understand. I know how you feel.
All right. So, okay. So sounds like you can't tell us a lot about that. You don't know about how things were enforced.
No.
it seems that all the money might have been returned, because I saw you post on something like that on Twitter.
I saw that so what I know is that about 5 billion Gala was minted, and then about 600 million was liquidated primarily on Uniswap. The contract, the blacklist functionality on the contract that everyone was bitching about, was used to lock the account. So it was basically to make that the Gala that had been, taken via the exploit, non-functional. And then the amount of ETH that they got, they sent back to the central finance wallet at Gala.
Okay.
That's all I know about that.
All right. I also read the benefactor burned 348 million. I don't know if that's Gala or dollars.
Gala.
Like Gala. So this is a more generic question. Why do crypto projects even need to burn at all? They're just tokens that are used.
This is a really, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. Go ahead.
No, that was it. I go for it.
So there's a couple things here. The first is that the concept of burn is really, really, really poorly understood by the average crypto person. And the reason that it's poorly understood is that, typically speaking, the concept of burn is used in the context of an ICO. So if you have an ICO, you mint, let's call it 100 tokens, you sell 60 tokens, now you have 40 tokens that are left over. You go ahead and you burn those 40 tokens, because that makes everybody feel better that you're not holding the 40 tokens to dump on the market. So that's why that's typically done, because you start off at, all the way at the top, and then you move down to whatever the actual circulating or needed supply is. Now, excuse me. Burns, in the case of Gala, the way that Gala functions is the emission is determined by the amount of total supply. Okay, and instead of starting at the top and going down, it starts at the bottom and goes up. Okay, and so as your so you have your emissions curve or your supply curve that goes like this, right? And your emissions curve that then goes like this. Now, because it was set up poorly at the beginning, it's got this stupid halving structure, which is, really dumb. Should not have been done that way. But that, the total supply determines where on that halving structure you fall. So burns are important in terms of, gas and things like that, because it essentially moves your supply curve backwards, which could potentially increase your emission, which is better for node operators. Or if you're not burning, then it decreases the emission so that the amount emitted eventually should find an equilibrium. Now, again, because it was done in these big, chunky, stupid, halving structures, that equilibrium is very hard to find, because the likelihood that equilibrium falls at exactly one of those points is nonsensical, which is why Luca Bailey, I think that's how I would say his name, submitted a proposal recently, which has been passed on to the Gala team, that it go from a halving structure to a consistent smooth curve. So that's what burns do. But basically, a lot of people don't really understand fully, why burns happen, because they always look at it just from the ICO perspective.
Yeah, that's it. It seems a lot like that with just about every coin. Every coin's going for, going good for a while. They get a lot of supply out there. Supply gets bigger, and they're like, oh, well, people aren't going to want this as much. We're going to burn this and raise the price. And the narrative is, and I do want to narrow in on this one too. I won't say take you to task, because you don't work for Gala, but I do want to narrow in on this. Companies sell their tokens. Like Gala Games sells these tokens to stay in business. Yeah, and whenever you do burns and stuff like that, it may reflect on the price. And a lot of people do think,
actually, to be honest, you could look at the majority of burns that have taken place in crypto projects throughout all of history, and you're not going to find too many examples where burns have impacted the price.
Okay, snap that, Jesus.
I'm not saying that it doesn't happen, and projects like to, if they're being really shitty projects. By the way, any project that is trying to influence the price of their token probably needs to not do that.
Well, this is what I'm really getting at, because a lot of people do think that Gala Games. Oh, now I'm hearing myself echo quite a bit. A lot of people do think that Gala Games.
Do I need to mute?
I don't know yet. Let's see.
Okay.
A lot of people think that Gala Games is, doing all these things, changing how the token works, changing how the contracts work, and initiating these burns and changing the economies of several games so that they can get very far ahead and not leave any money on the table. And I feel like there's not enough information out there, in a sense, where people can really glom onto this. And I say in a sense because we need commercials on TV sometimes to tell us intelligent things, like that the moon, is that we've landed on the moon. Well, we need public service announcements to tell us things we should know, that the Earth is not flat, that we have landed on the moon, and how basic math works. And I've always felt that I haven't seen that kind of information from Gala Games. Now, yes, they have information out there, but a lot of people see all these economic moves, and either they don't understand it or they see how it can be manipulated. And just the very fact if it's possible to manipulate it, it may be happening. And they look for on-chain evidence for this. This is where I'm saying things that are said on the Discord that people really want to hear answers to.
Sure. So, well, put it to you this way. I've seen in your Discord people include screenshots of the Gala main finance cold wallet labeled as my wallet. Despite the fact that it's the wallet that you can go back thousands and thousands of days and you can see people making purchases for little tiny amounts of Gala forever. It was like the main wallet that all.
Why does Bitbender's wallet have all these little purchases in them? Precisely,
right? Why did every single person in the Gala community send Bitbender 200 back? What the fuck? So was Bitbender the one personally selling these things? So anyway, my point here is that
I would say hi to Zorro. He watches every single
day. I appreciate Zorro. So my point in saying that is that, and this was it was Mark Twain that said this. He said, "There's lies, there's damned lies, and then there's statistics." Okay, so numbers can do damn near anything a clever person wants them to do, and they can make people suffering from like God's own case of the Dunning-Kruger effect feel very clever when they look at them. So like my point in saying that is that people will do all sorts of things, and the confirmation bias is obviously a big thing always. So that's one point to note. The second thing is that when you start talking about these things, do you mind if we poke at them individually? Okay.
No, they poke at you.
Let's talk about contract upgrades. Okay, what contract upgrades are we talking about here?
So isn't there? This is I don't have something written. You mentioned one of them. You can freeze a wallet, right?
Yes.
You can freeze a wallet.
Well, not me, but Gala can. Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry.
That was part of the V2 upgrade.
You've left Gala, but so Gala Games can freeze a wallet.
I mean, that was part of the V2 upgrade. It was written about in articles. It was written about in things. It's always been
okay. So Gala Games, a company, can freeze a wallet in an ecosystem that's decentralized. Then
no, they can freeze Gala tokens.
Okay.
And if they were to do so, it is a massive, huge thing.
So they can't freeze my ZipBug NFTs if I get them on the public blockchain.
No, not unless you put that in your contract and you decide to say if Benefactor doesn't like ZipBugs, he can freeze them. I mean, if you do that, that's on you. But the specific functionality in the Gala V2 contract allows for that, and it's, I think, very good that was added, because if that wasn't added, that the problem from the other day would have gotten a lot worse.
Oh yeah. Okay. There's something to be said about centralized governance. It is a lot quicker and easier to do.
But by the way, it's not centralized. They don't have the ability just to be like, Benefactor can't do that by himself.
He can't freeze the tokens by himself.
No, of course not.
Well, we're still talking about a company that can do it. Okay. And
yeah, I mean, sure. But this is the thing. Anytime you have a contract, if you control the deployer for that contract, anyone can do that. If you pick a random ass token, okay, if it has a contract that allows them to call the mint function, okay, or if it has, if it's upgradable, or if it hasn't, the control hasn't been relinquished or the keys haven't been burnt, they can do that.
Okay, so what's the contract? What's a token on the Gala chain that Gala cannot freeze things for? Is there any like right now?
Can't freeze anything for any of them,
except for Gala itself, for the Gala token.
Specifically, Gala on Ethereum.
Okay,
it's the Ethereum contract that we're talking about here. The Gala V2 contract on Ethereum.
Okay, so not Towncoin is gone now. Are there any other Gala related tokens anymore? Spider Tank, Silk, so they can't do it with Silk.
I don't believe Silk has that functionality in the contract.
Okay.
I don't know for sure. Don't quote me on that, but I don't believe it does.
I'm not looking to pin you to the wall. I'm just looking to get an idea of how these things work, and if can other Ethereum tokens. Well, it sounds like you're saying other Ethereum tokens could if their contract was written like that. But that to me doesn't seem like it's a very common thing to do. And so people...
It's quite common.
Really? Okay.
It's quite common. If you are working with any sort of Circle, for example, is a great example of this.
Yeah.
Circle has done this many times. And if there is ever a situation where, the FBI gets involved and someone's got a bunch of USDC, you can bet Circle goes in and freezes that shit. And it causes a little bit of furor when it does. But
I like that comparison. I like that comparison because you're showing how other tokens do the same thing, yet we seem to be fine with that. A lot of people use USDC.
Yeah, people, everyone uses USDC. And in fact, if I remember correctly, it was, that contract that they went and they like, okay, how exactly did they do this? This is the best practice for this. Let's go ahead and use that.
Can Gala Games pull it? What are the other kind of things that it can do besides freezing? Can it pull anything out of wallets?
No, I mean, it's the contract is upgradable. That's another part of this. So if there's ever a functionality that, that introduces a vulnerability, they have to be able to go and upgrade and patch that contract without having to go through all of the bullshit that was go through the bullshit that was the upgrade process from V1 to V2, which was a pain in the ass. With galachain, I mean, it would depend on how the chain code was written for specific tokens. But I don't believe that any of that functionality, I haven't looked at the chain code for specific tokens. Well, could be wrong, but
how Gala managed on galachain
the same things, requirements.
Okay. So I did want to move on to node stuff because I want to get through the questions. Node proposals in particular. It seems that some node proposals get suggested, people like them, Gala Games says that they're going to vote on them, there's a vote, and then nothing happens. And then others get fast-tracked right through, and they happen right away. One example.
I mean, I think that, there's a little bit of an apples and oranges comparison here. One is something that's months and months and months of work, and the other is a hot fix to fix a security issue.
Okay, that's fair.
So that's two things. That said, yeah, definitely some of those proposals have taken a hell of a lot longer to get implemented than I wanted to see them take. But
I guess there's a thought that the Gala node system, it being decentralized, that these node owners have a fair amount of control or a fair amount of input into how things go. And it seems that Gala Games, that Gala, the company, kind of calls the shots on how and when things happen. So,
well, I mean, shit has to get done. So, yeah, to a certain extent, sure. Because again, shit has to get done. Someone has to push the buttons to make the things go.
Right.
So that's part of it. And sometimes those things are much more complex than they appear. That's part of it. In other instances, sometimes it might be something that's quite simple. And then when it comes to actually doing the work, there's always a, prioritization part of the process that happens where it's like, well, we could do this thing that people are yammering about, or we could do this other thing. And there's an element of squeaky wheelness to it, which I think is, always the case.
Well, I guess people seem to think when they own a node that they have more power than they actually get, and that they're really kind of just beholden to Gala. Whenever Gala has time to do these things, Gala is changing priorities. And it's like, hey, I bought a node because I wanted to participate in the ecosystem. I wanted to vote. We haven't had a lot of votes recently. We've had some, but I mean, just it seems like people were expecting a different kind of engagement than what's been going on.
What were they expecting?
Maybe more decision making.
On what?
Anything. There's been a number of votes that haven't been implemented. I don't know them off the top of my head, but there's
been one that was basically looked at and deemed to be not a thing that would really work.
Okay.
So another attempt or another direction was taken. There's been one that hasn't been implemented, in part because when it was passed, it was a very, very narrow margin, and there was a lot of bitching and moaning about it, and it was one of those things that it's like, okay, well, technically speaking, it passed by a very small percentage, but it wasn't a thing that people really wanted. And so, in this specific instance, I personally want to put together a proposal that rolls that one back, because as time has gone on, I don't see that it would actually do the thing that it was designed to do originally. And I fed in on that, and a lot of the community fed in on it. And, I think that if there was a question of whether people actually wanted it or not, I would say that some of them would probably have said no.
Can anyone put together a proposal?
I mean, anyone could put together a proposal, sure. Like
Okay.
I've never seen anyone. I mean, Luca Bailey put a proposal together, and I passed it on directly to, the engineering team.
So I could put together a proposal, but that proposal would have to go to Gala the company to then put it to
Gala the company has to be the persons. They're the people that push the buttons that make the things go, and it has to fit into what else is happening and not break the ecosystem. I mean, You could put together a proposal voting yourself free unicorns every Thursday, but just because you put together a proposal and just because people vote on it doesn't actually mean that it makes sense or that it will work.
So the governance itself is not decentralized. It's very centralized.
Oh, no, not quite. But I mean, at the end of the day, I'm not
trying to nail you to the wall. I'm just trying to get an answer about to understand what was intended.
What I would say is this: is if you have a particular proposal that you want to put together that proposal and shop it in the community. Okay. So far, only person in 4 years that has put together a proposal that I am aware of was Luca Biley a few months ago, and me. Okay. Nobody's even bothered to write one, as far as I am aware.
Okay. Let's go down that happy
Sure.
trail. Can I put together a proposal if I'm banned from the Gala Discord?
Maybe you shouldn't get banned from the Gala Discord.
Okay, so there you go. Is there is a certain amount of centralization with the government.
Control of the Discord is not a centralized thing. There's tons of if you put together a proposal, okay, that was absolutely brilliant, I am quite certain you could get that in front of people in the Discord.
But mine would be a little bit
Let me
less.
put it to you this way. I have another here. People have managed to put together deep dives accusing me of insider trading, and that's made its way into the fucking Discord. Okay. So if that made its way in there, I'm sure that a very intelligently worded proposal could, because that was some fucking asinine bullshit for starters. Okay.
Hey,
you sold an elf.
I didn't bring that up. You did.
No,
okay.
Of course I did. Of course I brought it up, because it was jackasses in your Discord, 3 of them that I'm aware of, that were the main authors of that. And it's particularly interesting to me because they're like, oh, he sold an elf. He clearly knew what's going on. He knew that Gala.
Oh my God. Did you see my retorts to that? Seriously, this elf cost like $100 fucking dollars or something like that. It's like, oh yeah, he's going to really enrich himself with that.
Well, and then they ignore the fact that I spent 15 fucking ETH to buy a fucking Lantern of the Sun, because that's totally a thing that I would do if I thought the game was getting canceled. Fucking jackasses.
Yeah. Anyway, let's. I'm not.
My point is, back to the proposal. If you put together a super robust, smart proposal that made a shit ton of sense, okay, you could absolutely get it in front of people in the community.
When I think of governance, I think of like the comp coin or Tezos, and how you get a question out there. Maybe you run validators, maybe you get points for doing stuff like that. And then of course you would earn the right to ask, to put together a proposal. But it seems that in the Gala ecosystem, you need to put together a proposal, shop it in a very kind of loose way to the community. I mean, yeah, I suppose I could shop it through Reddit, but how would Gala Games even take this on? Let's say,
there's at least 4 members of our legal team that just hang out inside your Discord, so I'm sure that we get noticed.
That's fine with me.
It's not mine. I'm not part of it, but there are definitely people that hang out.
Of course they do. We have the biggest population of lurkers, I think, of any Discord I've ever been on. Most people don't say a goddamn thing, and the people that do talk say a bunch of bullshit all the time. So, okay. Anyway, about the proposal, I'm serious about the proposal here, because we're talking about an ecosystem that anybody should be able to use, but it seems gated in a way to people who have to act a certain way. That's all.
It's not, though.
Can I make a proposal and get it over to Gala Games if I'm banned from the Gala Discord?
Sure.
Okay. How can I get this? How can I get this?
You could do any number of things. Okay. But the question is just because one person says, I want to do a thing, okay, doesn't necessarily mean that it is a smart or intelligent thing. As with any democratic proposal, okay, in any democratic process, there is always going to be some level of groundswell push behind it that you get before it goes anywhere. This is true of anything, of absolutely any process that you care to have. Even if it's something where you're doing a bunch of, you mentioned Tezos, where you have to perform certain actions to get certain points. That's gating. If it's running a validator node, that's gating. It's spending a certain amount of money to buy a certain number of tokens or burning a certain number of tokens. That's gating.
More financial, which means the richer you are, the more proposals you get to make.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know, and so there's always some sort of gate. And the lowest barrier, by the way, okay, that I can think of is the absolutely democratic appeal to the population. Appeal to the people.
And I would actually suggest, and I'm going to defend your side a little bit. I would suggest if everybody had put a proposal, you could just on your own node, put forth a proposal, and everybody had to vote every goddamn day on something.
It would never fucking work.
Dizzying. It'd be dizzying.
It would never work. And here's the thing: is engagement on those votes is historically quite low, and that's on big things that people really, really care about. Okay, for small topics, you would get nothing. Okay, maybe the way to do this, and I think that this is a good idea. I have no idea if anyone else does, but if you could, on your node, put forth a proposal, and if you can get that sponsored by 500 other nodes, then maybe it goes to a vote or something like that. Like, that doesn't bother me as a concept. And then it has to reach a certain level of I mean, it can't just be a straight up, 550 people voted.
It would be nice to. There are websites online. Actually,
there's all sorts of things. But my point is that this is something that I know that Gala thinks about. I've had conversations with Eric about how to do this in a way that makes sense and makes it so that people are actually engaged, and makes it so that you have genuinely speaking good ideas that are being brought forward. Because the wisdom of there's some incredibly smart people in the community. Incredibly smart people. There's some incredibly smart people in your Discord, which is balanced by some incredibly not smart people in your Discord as well. But you guys could put together amazing proposals. Maybe this is one of the things that we should do. Let's go build a voting protocol on galachain that if you have a founder node, you can do that.
To me, it seems like that is needed. Personally,
absolutely.
I would love to see, frankly, 57 different things. I'm trying to think of that website where people can put proposals on there, and if enough people like this proposal, then it will get elevated up to the company.
Sure. Now, but this is where that becomes a problem, because what was that? It's like a political website where it's like you would put like I want to, I don't know, pick a random political topic, and then people would go and upvote, essentially, right? Mm-hmm. The problem is that shit gets botted all to hell. So you have to make it so that there's actually a fucking stake in the ecosystem in some way, shape, or form. Given that founders nodes are a thing, that makes sense to be the thing that people that is used to gate, proposals to the ecosystem.
I just saw a neat comment, and I just clicked it off the screen. Node owners have the ability to submit votes, and it gets ranked and rated by other node owners.
I agree with that.
That'd be
I have no problem with that.
I would love to see 57 different questions in there with any number of popularity, and then you see what bubbles up, because to me, just seeing all those questions there means that people will get more actively engaged. They're going to ask the questions. They're going to see how much other node owners actually give a fuck. Yeah. That's all. So great. Okay, let's move on. We did good here. Got the decentralization stuff.
I'm out of water. My mouth is like dry as hell right now.
Can you? Well, I have water right here. Can you?
Very little help to me.
Can you answer any questions about games? I know that's probably a loaded question.
I mean, I can answer questions about games that are publicly available information.
Okay, let's
may or may not help you.
What? This might be dated information, and I know you've already commented on CFA about your level of introspection in all these games. But I'll summarize it as it seems like a number of projects have been.
Is this one of those things where you're editing it down from like a hyper dickish comment to something that's normal human?
No, this is actually mine.
Okay.
Somebody added something. What happened with the economies in Spider Tanks? What happens with the economies in EOE and with Townstar? You had all these economies which had something change radically in them, and then they're just kind of languishing now. And I understand Spider Tanks.
So these are three separate instances.
But they are economies that have been affected and haven't changed back. They've been kind of broken.
EOE was never changed. EOE is the same thing it was launched as.
Okay. All right. So
now,
EOE
to be clear, I don't think that it was a good idea the way that it was launched, but it hasn't changed.
Okay. I might be wrong about something that changed in that, but we got Townstar and Spider Tanks.
Sure. Townstar was in full-blown meltdown mode when its change occurred. And that was the removal of earnings and the stopping of town emission. Had that not happened, and this is no different than the change that occurred in any other Web3 game of that same basic time period, where it was essentially a token hose. Everything was going crazy, and then it blew up. The difference is that they've continued to build it. They've continued to develop it. It's gotten better, more robust. They just released the guild feature last week, which I haven't had a chance to try yet. But the nodes actually do what the nodes are supposed to do now. And earning is a thing that is still being worked on, and will hopefully release in the future.
A couple of years now, right? For the earning.
It's been about a year and a half.
Really? Seems longer.
It feels longer. Yeah, this is just bear market shit.
Yeah, I guess so. Spider Tanks is no longer played as much as it used to be.
Spider Tanks is no longer played. Part of that is due to the lack of progress and new content and things like that, which does have to do with a legal situation, which, even though I'm not an employee anymore, I still don't think I'm allowed to talk about.
Probably not.
So I'm just not going to. But the changes that occurred to the economy there. So basically, it went like this. When it launched, it was launched with one particular economy. Did not work all that well. At the beginning of last year, I believe, I want to say February or March of 2023, I proposed a radically new change to that economy. That was absolutely going like crazy and was absolutely fantastic, and it was working, and people were happy, and tokens were, people were earning tokens.
I liked it. I was playing.
It was fun. I was playing too. Then a decision was made to remove the utility of Silk within the game, which was a decision that I vociferously disagreed with. And that change happened. And when that happened, the whole thing fell flat on its face. Sales went from, I want to say something to the tune of like $125,000 per sale to like $100.
Okay, then why not change it back? I mean, what's the process of getting that thing moving?
The problem is that parts of it have been changed back. Okay, but people still felt burnt by that, and without having a partner to facilitate, and for example, honor was removed. Okay, that was one of those changes that I wanted to have happen.
Oh, was it? That I did not know. Okay,
dude, it was removed like 8 months ago.
I've looked at it recently. It's I thought it said honor is up to 12.
So here's the fucked up thing: is it says it in the game client.
Okay,
but it doesn't actually impact the distribution. But we can't. No, not we. Again, it's very difficult.
Yeah, that's
especially so recently.
Details there. Case.
What was that?
It sounds like there's I know there's a lawsuit between Gala Games and
no, this is a very, and again, I just want to say I apologize for blurring the lines a little bit, because I've been, for the last 4 years, I've been saying we and talking about Gala, even though that is not the case.
But you call me on it every time I say you're like, no, I'm not Gala Games. Okay, go ahead.
So the Gala does not have the source code for Spider Tanks. This I can say because it is in the lawsuit. You can see that. That's one of the reasons that Gala is suing Game Media, is to get the source code so they can deliver on the promise. They don't have that. without that, they can't go in and change things in the UI that removes Honor, for example. So while Honor was removed, there was an article that was published about it and all of that. A lot of people still think it's there because when they log in, they still see it.
Yeah, this is what I'm talking about when I've mentioned a lot over the years that Gala does kind of suffer from a communication thing. Yes, you might have.
So my question though with that is, what else would you do?
Public service announcements, which is what I said earlier.
Public service announcements.
I would love to log into a game and it have on a fucking ticker, the latest news.
Well, there is in a lot of games. There is that. But again, if Gala can't control the source, they can't make those things be there.
Okay. So
they published a blog about it. They did announcements about it. I talked about it on Ahead of the Game. They talked about it in Discord. Do you own the code for the Gala Games launcher? The code for the Gala Games launcher? Do I? No.
Does
Gala? It depends. If I remember correctly, parts of the launcher are actually dependent on the individual studios.
Okay. My thought is if you pick game one, you could show the announcements for game one every single time you pop into game one because you're using the same launcher. You do have control, not you. Gala Games does have control over that. And so
I don't believe they do. I think Game Media built their own launcher using our code. Okay. I'm not 100% certain on that.
Okay, well, that was just my 2 cents of how to mitigate that situation. Okay, so a couple more, and of course, saving these for last. What's with the Gala projects being canceled and starting over, like Vox and like Mirandus? My understanding is there was code for Vox and there was code for Mirandus, and
so you would. I've again, I do hang out in your Discord from time to time, and I have seen certain things being said.
Please correct me. That's why you're here. I mean, if people are speaking up,
it's not you. You only know the things that you're told, and the problem is that most of the time you're told that by,
nefarious people.
No, I don't want to say nefarious. Poorly informed. Sometimes nefarious.
I like that
nefarious. So what Vox had is it had several mini games. Okay. It had a couple things that would be considered at absolute best tech demos. Okay. It did not have anything that was Voxverse as advertised. Didn't exist.
It had a single player game, right?
No.
Okay, so it just had mini games.
It had a thing that you walk around.
Okay.
Which was, I don't know, probably a hair better than. Do you remember, like way back in 2021, just after the first Vox sale, they had that thing that Adam Price and a couple other people put together over a weekend where you could fly your Vox around?
Yeah, vaguely. And there's also a game called Vox Battles that
that's cryptograms. Yeah, that's cryptogram. But my point is that what they had was a smidge better than that, and it was very, very small, not even remotely to the point of vertical slice. It was an environment that you could walk around in. No core loop functionality, no none of the things that you need for it to be a game. It was a thing where you could walk. I think it was Future Boy around. So that's what was there. And so when you say starting over in the sense that like it needed to actually be built, yeah, definitely 100%. Gala does make a very strong commitment that if they say that a thing will be done, it will be done. It is a promise that was made. And so, with Vox and Mirandus and things like that, these are things that will ship. It just has to be done the right way.
Now, and I do want to call something out here and say that other gaming companies like EA and Ubisoft and stuff, when they work with game vendors to build games, these games take years, like up to 7 years to put out.
Yes,
and,
absolutely.
And it's important to mention this, and this is where I actually agree with Gala Games here. Sometimes that shit's got to be done over, and we're not talking Duke Nukem Forever type of done over, but I'm just talking about things they don't meet what the publisher wants or how the publisher sees it, and they want things done over. Now, I don't like that in the case of Mirandus,
no,
but it's their option because they're the game publishing company and they're the ones paying the salary. Yes, I've been a software developer for a very, very long time. I think 25 years. And I couldn't tell you the number of stuff that I've worked on that we've gotten 3/4 of the way through and it's been canceled. Okay. No, I don't like that. I loved those programs. I thought they were written very, very well. And for whatever reason, the people were done with it. They thought that we took too long or whatever. And I do defend Gala's ability and right to cancel things like that. But oh my God, Mirandus is the most awaited program or awaited app that Gala Games has been making, and it felt like it got kneecapped.
I definitely understand how it felt like that. It didn't, but I definitely understand how it felt like that.
Because you had like top level developers developing this. You guys have told everybody we've got the best and the brightest, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, we're sending this down to Chile now. And we got
okay. So I want to stand up for a second for the Chilean team. Okay, which,
by the way, I have done myself in other casts. I'm asking you because I'm in a different position.
They are absolutely badass. Okay, I am hugely excited about what they're doing, and having been part of some of their updates and having seen some of that stuff, I'm very excited about it.
They have to rewrite a lot of code, right?
Yeah, they did. The statement, and I think I shared this, was that if the Mirandus team had talked to the Walking Dead team and used the Walking Dead Empire's Tweety backend, it would have saved them a lot of time and effort. And that if the focus had been on delivering the promise instead of what's the word I'm looking for? I want to be very clear here. I absolutely love the Mirandus team. McCarthy's a fantastic person. I've hung out with a lot of them. I don't know all of them all that well, but a bunch of them are really, really, really cool people. Okay. And so this is not criticism, except that, as you said, it is up to the publisher to call a lot of the shots.
And EA does that. EA fires entire teams and replaces them. That's their prerogative
all the frickin' time. And the critical thing here is that, and Eric mentioned this a couple times, you have to be willing to work with the publisher. If you're not willing to work with the publisher, what recourse does the publisher have? I mean, when you have a thing that is essentially like an internal business process, like a roadmap, internal development roadmap. You've seen internal development roadmaps many times, okay? And when somebody on a team says, we have decided that rather than giving you a roadmap or making projections for what our burn is going to be for the rest of the year, we've decided that you're either going to let us do this the way that we feel like doing it, or you're not. It's up to you. When you say that to a company, I don't know what you expect to happen.
Okay. So,
and I'm not pointing any fingers at any teams for this, just to be very clear.
Reminds me, this what you're talking about reminds me a lot of Chris Roberts, who did Wing Commander. Chris Roberts and how he did Freelancer. He started putting it together. He got it most of the way there, and then, using my word, he was kneecapped by his publisher, I believe it was EA, who simply fired him from the team and fired him from the project and everybody on the team, and then they finished it their way. And as a result, he's been butthurt about it ever since, saying, this is not, Freelancer isn't the game that I wanted. I wanted something a lot better, and that's why he made Star Citizen. Star Citizen is basically what he wanted for Freelancer.
I love Freelancer. I absolutely love Freelancer.
Well, he wanted a lot. He wanted the interaction to be a lot different, but it just took forever, and that was the problem. It took forever to make. Now, I love the idea of Mirandus, and I'm going to put something up here from Lycan, actually. EA doesn't sell hundreds of millions of dollars in NFTs for that game before it's ever come out. That's a wrinkle that Electronic Arts doesn't have. They can just sit on something as long as they want, and you're going to be paying $65 for the game, and then whatever. But
so I want to dig into this a little bit.
Okay.
You're right. EA doesn't do that. If they did, I bet you that their rate of going through teams would triple. I bet that EA would burn through teams at 3 or 4 times the rate that they currently do, because every single one of those sales is perceived as a promise. And if you are not delivering on that promise, then somebody has to. And as a publisher, okay, I can only imagine that the way that, if it was me, let's put it this way. If it was me, if I sell you a thing and I say that, here is a coffee cup. Okay, it's got really, really bad coffee sludge in the bottom of it. But here is a coffee cup, and I've hired a team to build this coffee cup, and I've sold you the promise of a future coffee cup, and every single one of these things has a hole, or it's taking a bunch of time to make. You can bet I will go through teams very quickly until I find somebody who can make that, because I have to deliver on the functionality and utility of a damn coffee cup.
Right. And that's what I think Lycan was saying. Those NFTs cost a lot of money. There are
for sure.
Cemeteries, for example. I bought one, cost $23,000.
Yeah.
That's more than a brand new car.
Sure. Well, I mean, not a very nice one, but
these days. Well, you can get one for about that. But the point is, that's how much a car would cost. And what I have is an electronic signature on a blockchain. I don't have a feature for a game. And what worries me,
I get that. I understand.
Back into the centralization and the private blockchain, everything that I was telegraphing earlier. What worries me is that a single company is standing in the way of me using a $23,000 NFT.
No, they're not.
They're not?
No.
How can I use it?
Jesse can program a utility for your cemetery in Bodhi. Go for it. Knock yourself out.
Yeah, but I wanted a cemetery for Mirandus, and it was described in a very specific way.
It was. Not arguing that. Okay,
so it's not there though. I mean,
yes. What was it? Was it there when you bought it? Did somebody take it away?
That's a good point. So to me, it's a promise of a cemetery that hasn't been fulfilled.
Yeah,
Gala
sees it the same way. I see it that way personally.
Okay.
So again, I have a Lantern of the Sun. Okay. I bought this Lantern of the Sun because I saw it used in a playtest, and it was like the person, I when I play games, I don't like pausing. I just want to keep going at it. And so I saw somebody walking around with a Lantern of the Sun, and it was like they were carrying the fucking sun. It lit up everything. So I went and bought a Lantern of the Sun. I'm like, this is amazing. I don't have a game that I can use that in right now, but the Lantern of the Sun looked amazing to me. And I think, again, I spent like 15 ETH on it or something like that. I'm sure somebody is currently, scrolling through my transaction history to tell you exactly how much I spent on it. Feel free to post it as a comment. But when all of these things were created, they were created with a promise. Okay. Now, if as a company, you feel that that promise is at risk of being delivered, okay, you have to do the thing necessary to actually deliver the promise. Now, what didn't happen is you did not have super uber cool cemetery functionality, and then Benefactor came in and was like, fuck this shit, and destroyed your cemetery functionality. That did not happen. You had an idea of what that is in your head, okay? And you had that idea when you purchased it, and that idea has, in all likelihood, having watched this happen myself, has probably grown in your hours and hours and hours of talking to other people about this, okay? In these amazing epic sessions of like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool if, okay? So that functionality has likely increased in your own mind, and yet remains exactly where it was in terms of delivery as it was the day that you purchased it.
Is buying a Mirandus cemetery like buying a laundry token for a laundry that doesn't yet exist?
Maybe.
Because that's the definition of security.
I mean, no, it's not. A laundry token for a laundromat that's not there is not a security.
That's okay. My understanding. I thought that was called the laundry token test. Somebody please correct me.
I could be wrong. Okay, but you know,
I mean, I don't unless I buy a Tesla. I don't buy a car. I don't buy a promise for a car before the car exists. I wonder how they get away with it, to be honest.
I mean, I bought I put my $100 for a Tesla Cybertruck. You know, I mean,
well, if you put $100 in, you actually, I think, bought a. If you're only putting in $100, you're buying a promise for a spot. You're not buying the actual truck. Yeah, okay, that's a good point. I don't think you.
I mean, you're also only buying the promise of the ability to place a cemetery in a game. You're not buying a cemetery. You're buying the ability to place a cemetery.
That's a unfortunate distinction, because when you say, hey, you've got, you pay $23,000 for this hash on a blockchain. This is your hash, and Jesse could go build a game for it.
Yeah, you could.
But I didn't buy it so that Jesse could build a game. I bought it because a game was going to be made.
Not really. No, bring it back to Mirandus. Let's leave Bodhi out of this.
Bodhi, I mean, what? I didn't bring up Bodhi. Oh,
no. I'm just saying that you didn't buy a cemetery. You did not buy a plot in a game. You you did not buy grid coordinates, okay, in a game that does not yet exist. You bought a toy that you can use in a future game.
Right.
That will have to be placed in that future game pending the decisions of all of the rest of the players. If there's spots for 5 cemeteries and there's 8 cemeteries that exist, and you're one of the last ones that decides to go do that, then maybe you don't get to use it at all. I don't know.
Well, I'm waiting for the day, frankly, that I can plop my cemetery down right outside of Minotaur Cave, and then people can pay me to resurrect.
This is actually exactly my point. That was not sold to you.
Really?
No, what was sold to you is a cemetery where people resurrect.
Mm-hmm.
Not, this is a thing that you get to go put any random ass place in the world that you want.
Oh, well, I bought a town actually to place it in. If that's what
you bought a town. Now, the promise was not said you get to place a town any random ass place that you want.
As close to a Minotaur Cave as physically possible.
Understood. But maybe there's no town places for there, because why would there be a Minotaur next to a town?
That's a good point. Also, there's a lot about this game that I don't know is going to be made. That's a little bit of a scary concept.
But this is my point, though, is that what has been said versus said by Gala and by the team versus what has been imagined are two very different things.
It sounds like we need an FAQ on a website with all the promised features.
Agreed.
That's what I would love to see. I know that there's been a number of different attempts to gather together all the promises about these games. Discord seems like such a terrible vehicle for development games or dealing with promises for games and stuff.
I agree. I mean, and this is to a certain extent why I asked everybody to put in the things that they thought were promises. And I know that a lot of people in your Discord was like, "Fuck that! We're not going to do that. We're not doing the work for them." I am
perfectly happy if somebody uses ChatGPT on the transcripts from every Mirandus AMA and video that Michael McCarthy was on, and whatever he said.
Knock yourselves out, guys. But this is my point, though, is that, and this is why I want to know. And this is why I put that together when I was still there, why I asked people, because in my mind, I think I bought a cemetery, and I think I might have sold a cemetery too. I'm not sure. But in my mind, I never thought of it as I'm going to stick this in my town outside a Minotaur cave, because that's just never part of the fiction that my brain thinks of. I always think of...
That's what I thought of when I first heard it advertised. I'm like, oh my God, this is a perfect place, opportunity, exactly the right place with the right thing.
But my point is that your perception, okay, and the reality of what was promised could very well be very different.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why understanding what that perception is an important part to trying to do. If you have two options of looking at it, and here's the black and white in text promise that was made, okay, versus here is the perception that Faz has, and he's the only one who put it on the list. Well, this perception isn't quite the promise. It's the promise plus 5%, for example.
It sounds like there needs to be more clarity for these things. That's all.
There's a tremendous amount of and hopefully people actually contributed to that list. There's a tremendous amount of clarity. The Chilean team did go through every single
this
video.
Is something I had for many years. During all that time, it seems that there wasn't exactly a list, and I'm glad that it's being addressed now.
Wasn't. That's part of it.
I'd say exactly a list, because all those promises are still in AMAs on YouTube, sitting on YouTube. Somebody can go and transcribe
all of that has been gathered now. But the problem here, okay, is that if I were the Mirandus team, the Chilean team working on this, I would not have any interest whatsoever in saying, okay, well, this is the shit that we pulled out of, that we pulled out of all of the AMAs. Okay, because what's going to happen is you're going to have a whole bunch of people whose understanding of their perception does not align with the actual black and white promise that was made.
God, they get a complete reset. Actually, the Chilean team can actually pick and choose what they understand to be features at this point.
Well, it's pretty clear what's features. They went through everything. Now, whether that feature aligns with the mythos that was created, or, if you sat down and you had a beer with somebody and they said, oh, it would be really cool if, which, by the way, it would be really cool if is not a promise. That's we're brainstorming together. Okay. It's one of those things that, like, you could say, white paper. You can make these things into almost whatever you want. Okay. And that's kind of the problem. So what they've done is they've gone through, and this was what they were working on a few weeks ago. They've gone through and captured everything that they know that they can capture. And in the black and white, this is what the promise is. And they do have a document of here's all the promises that we know need to be delivered on. And so they work from that.
Let's bring this back to LFG, because I think this is going quite a bit long, and I very much appreciate you staying with me this long. And I'm happy to say that you have always stayed with me as long as you have. So I do appreciate this a lot. How does LFG dovetail into these games and how they're produced?
Not at all.
Not at all.
Nope.
It's just blockchain and
Just
no
blockchain. We don't now that's not to say, okay, that's not to say that we won't in some way, shape, or form. But well, I will say this. If we do, it's not just going to be Gala Games. It's going to be anyone who wants to do anything on galachain that wants to talk about games. We're all avid gamers. And so we would be delighted to help advise on tokenomics, to help with, any sort of Web3 stuff that you may have for your game. We definitely want to lean in on that. But in terms of like the actual games at Gala, we may or we may not. It depends on whether or not Gala asks us to, or
Okay.
asks me to, really. As an advisor, I still get asked about some stuff like, hey, how would you handle this situation? And then I, give my input, but it's much more of a, here's the question, here's the relevant information we have collected for you. Tell us what you think.
Okay. And Gala itself is not intended in the end to be the player in the ecosystem, but one of many players.
No, they shouldn't.
Okay.
They shouldn't. I mean, honestly, and I think that this has been demonstrated over years, and I don't think any of your listeners would argue with this. Galachain, or not Galachain, but Gala as a company isn't great at publishing games. That's probably not a big surprise to anyone, and it's not a surprise to them either. It's been an absolute struggle bus, and there's a variety of different reasons for this. But ultimately at the end of the day, what I think Gala wants to do is create something that enables other people to come in and build. We are trying to accelerate that at LFG to make opportunities for more people to come in and do that. And this is why I've been working so closely with, the Reflex guys for Voyager and all of that.
So is Gala Games or Gala, is either Gala Games or Gala eventually planning to spin down and just make it easier? It kind of like Microsoft. Microsoft develops, they have an ecosystem that they keep developed for other people to use. They just happen to develop things as well.
Right.
They make a lot of bad choices, but the point is they have APIs and an entire website of documentation about how everything works. And I'm envisioning that Gala Games kind of wants to be like that and not as much just a publisher. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I can see a future where games could potentially be spun out, because ultimately you need greater agility. Like this is one of the reasons that we're doing what we're doing, is we need to be able to move faster and respond more quickly to changing conditions, and to be able to connect and work better with the rest of Web3, which is something that Gala has never been particularly good at doing. It's kind of been its own little walled garden, closed off ecosystem.
If Gala Games, not Gala, if Gala Games goes away, will LFG still have a function and a purpose?
Of course. We're not related to games, like at all. We're related to. Here, let me tell you. Today, I had conversations with an HR company that wants to do a thing on Galachain. I had conversations with an AI company that wants to do things on Galachain. I've had conversations today with what was the other one? I had 3 different meetings, and I just today was basically a half day. A rather large Korean company that wants to do something. And a large analytics company that wants to do something. None of these are games. None of these are even peripherally related to games.
Sounds like LFG could get bigger than Gala Games then at some point.
Well, it's not about that. We don't want to be big. I don't want to be big. Fuck, I don't want to have hundreds of employees. What I want to have a team of people that can parachute into a company and say, this is the stuff that you need to do to get going on galachain and with the Gala node ecosystem. Okay, A, B, C, D, 1, 2, 3. Here you go. Here's how to set it up. Here's how it works. Work with your programmers a little bit. Look at what they've done. Go, yeah, well, I wouldn't do it that way. Maybe try thinking of it this way. But it's your call. Go do what you want, and then leave. And just get them on chain, get them moving, get them building things.
Well, I see a lot of documentation in your future.
Yeah. We have people that are working exclusively on documentation.
All right.
So that's what this is about.
All right. This is good. I think we have a much better idea of what LFG is, and it sounds like it's going to be building its a better spot for itself as well. It sounds like the sky is the limit on what you could do for the ecosystem,
so, yeah.
Depending on what the needs are. All right.
That's the plan, man.
We didn't even get to the mean tweets, but I don't know if
mean tweets.
we even want to go there.
Come on, hit me. Hit me with some mean tweets.
Okay, mean tweets. First one's a bit easy. Would you rather fight a grizzly bear or an elephant? And after that fight, could you win a fight against a manatee?
Could I win a fight against a manatee?
Yeah.
Well, I am essentially, if anyone who's seen me swimming knows that I manatee around quite proficiently.
Apparently, this is supposed to reveal something.
Okay, so wait, hold on. A grizzly bear or an elephant?
Yeah. Would you rather fight?
They'll both kill you deader than shit. Like that doesn't even matter. Like what kind of range and what kind of weaponry do I have?
I think a grizzly bear, but I don't know. They can climb trees. Elephants can't, but they can just knock them down.
No, the elephant just knocks the tree down. And a grizzly bear, if you think you can fight a grizzly bear, you can't fight a grizzly. You're not Leonardo DiCaprio's character.
All right. So, pretty mean tweet. Ask Bitbender why he hacked that 5 billion Gala.
Why indeed? Yeah. No.
So you can get the money for your company, apparently.
Well, obviously. I mean, let's be real here. That people immediately said that, and I think honestly, the reason that it was done when it was done, I think it was opportunistically done because I had just left, and because people would say shit like that.
Well, I think it also pulls. There's a narrative that question follows, which is Gala Games is doing nefarious things behind the scenes to enrich themselves, and at the expense of others. That's what I think the narrative is.
There's always going to be that narrative. People will always say things like that, whether it makes any sense or not. In this particular event, having gotten, as far as I know, both the FBI and DOJ involved in this, and knowing exactly who this was, it seems rather silly that would be a thing that was done with, nefarious purposes, especially when it's like such a stupid, like if that was a thing. If that was a thing, honestly, and this is one of the reasons I asked, I put out a tweet, saying I want to see the daily distribution, being pulled by somebody and turned into a report, because it occurred to me that if there was going to be somebody who was doing something nefariously, the way that this dude did it was the stupidest possible way you could do it. Okay? Because if he had just done $1 million a day, it might not have been noticed as quickly. And, that would have been bad.
Yeah, I was hoping that we talk more about the controls, or more of a, I would be interested in, maybe not even here, but just listed somewhere else, the controls that you guys had and would like to have for these kind of things.
For starters, again, not us, not me. I didn't do it.
Yeah.
I wasn't even part of this. I was having a conversation with CryptoStash while driving. Oh my God. Never give toddlers donuts. Just never give toddlers donuts, because I'm driving down the road. I took my kids to go see my grandmother because they'd never met her before. My very precocious daughter asked my grandmother if she could have a cuckoo clock, which like every good German woman, my grandmother has in abundance. And so she gave my daughter a cuckoo clock. We're driving down Highway 101 in California, which is poured in those like 20-foot concrete segments. Mm-hmm. And so you get the nice as you drive. Both of my children had a donut, which was roughly half of their body weight, before being strapped into a car seat. They were absolutely losing their minds. And every time we went over a bump, I had a cuckoo clock in the back going ding, 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 ding. Oh, it was a nightmare. But anyway, I was on a call with CryptoStash when other people started calling me and telling me, what had happened. But yeah, the situation and Eric talked about this in Discord, is that the contract itself was never breached. However, there are things like the minter role. Okay, so when you go and you bridge things or you mint stuff to Ethereum, there's an automated process that goes through that. The contract itself and that process, the setup for it, are all locked behind multi-sig. And the person they were a again, security researcher, had access to that. And I think the miss is that that key was not rotated after they left, and it should have been. But you obviously can't have every single contract interaction require multisig, because that particular thing is called like thousands of times a day.
Well, I'm wondering if I'm assuming this is something like for the distro or something like that. Yeah. You could have other controls on it, such as maximum amount that could be minted at once or in one.
Absolutely. There's no question that there are definite improvements, and I'm pretty sure they're working on some of that stuff. But that's essentially what the situation is there.
Okay.
Definitely room for improvement, and there's always room for improvement. All
right. Ask Bitbender if he thinks that Gala has lost its early mover advantage in the blockchain gaming space.
Not really. Honestly, there are a few other games out there that are solid, that I like, but I still haven't seen anything that competes or even comes close to Last Expedition in terms of, its actual, quality of a game. And I think that lost first mover advantage. I guess in the sense that there are other organizations that are coming closer. I think you could make that statement. Certainly lost to a certain extent some of its earlier Web3-ness, okay, which is, again, part of the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing. But yeah, I don't think it's fully lost its advantage there.
Okay. And I'm going to wrap these up pretty quickly here. I think I actually know how you're going to answer this question. See if I'm right. Does it bother you or any of the executives at Gala that a majority of Gala OGs have lost all faith in Gala and have dumped their assets?
No.
Why?
Not at all. Because, for a variety of reasons. It doesn't bother me personally. Because say again?
You're not there anymore, so that wouldn't matter.
No,
would it bother you if you were there?
I have been part of this ecosystem for a very long time. And I've seen a number of people get upset and frustrated for a variety of reasons. I think that one of the big things that causes people to lose faith, if you will, boils down to interactions. Okay, because people will have contentious interactions, and those contentious interactions will result in a ban or, something like that. They get frustrated, they get angry, they go somewhere else, and they take their aggression elsewhere. And the reason that those contentious interactions, happen is because in the entirety of the bear market, okay, there were hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of projects and games and promises that were made by other people, and that people rugged, okay, and there's literally no one else for them to be frustrated with. And so you can't go pick a project that rugged, okay, and go hang out in their Discord. Most of them are gone. Most of them have shut their Discords and their Telegrams and their everythings. And so what you get is you get a bunch of people that are pissed off at an industry in general, taking it out in the one place where there are people to listen. Well, and that will result in, getting yeeted from the Discord.
I think that the what's behind this question,
sure,
does it bother you that OGs have lost all faith, is one, a perception that the OGs have some influence, which I think in one sense, sorry, I'm about to sneeze. I think.
Go for it. Hit it. Everyone wants to see it.
All right.
Wait, that was a sneeze? That was the lamest sneeze I've ever seen.
I'm muted. I hit the mute button. It's right here on my microphone.
Hardware muted.
So I think people are thinking, one, that the OGs have an outsized influence, and maybe the OGs thought they had some influence. And the OGs would obviously be owning a lot of NFTs and so on, thinking that, hey, we're going to be able to make bank once this game comes out. So the assumption there is that these OGs had some sort of influence and that them leaving would cause you an issue.
No.
So I do know that there were Gala and are Gala OGs that are trying to get things done through Gala and are probably stymied by the fact that Gala is still kind of working through all the kinks. Like you said, made some bad
parts of that.
With the token distribution and probably Townstar and so on. So I don't know. I feel that question is just meant to kind of get a certain feeling across, like, oh, everybody's leaving.
Everybody's not leaving, though. That's like some people are leaving. There are some people who are upset.
What I want to see from both sides is, because I have no idea. I don't know if everybody's leaving, and I don't know if everybody's not leaving. It's Well,
what I can tell you is this: do you remember back in the early heady days of the internet when we thought that everybody would have access to more information and it would lead to, expanded thinking and everybody understanding each other better, and this would be so great, and we'd all just sit around and be like, oh, now we all know so much more. Let's be enlightened, right? The reality is that what you get is you get echo chambers. And you get echo chambers where you've got a bunch of people that are all getting together and all screaming about how much they hate shit. And the person, screaming Ricola from the top of the mountains. Okay. You get that echo back. And so you're going to get back whatever it is that you put out there. If you're angry and you think that everything sucks, then you're going to have people that gravitate you that are angry and think everything sucks. And, like attracts like. That's just the way that it is. Now, the reality is, okay, that, I don't think that, there's generally speaking, a decrease in the size of the Gala community or in the size of Gala's marketability in general, or even necessarily in the cumulative numbers of players that are playing. There are games that within the Gala ecosystem that continue to attract new players, and are, things are getting better and better and better for those games. Now, are there a bunch of people who are angry and have left and tend to glom together? Absolutely. 100%. And, it's a bummer. I wish that was not the case. Are you getting ready to get swatted? I'm seeing flashes over there.
No, I moved Discord to this screen because I was going to type a thank you to you after we end in about a minute or two. I'm trying to be cognizant of your time.
Sorry. No, dude, I'm so exhausted. I didn't get in until one last night with the kids, and that was a nightmare. But anyway, my point is that I'm bummed that there are people who are gone. There are people that I miss in the Discord. There are people that I had a great deal of, fun talking to, and that I thought were, fantastic people. And I've come to have, different opinions in some cases regarding some of them, but other people, like, I when I was at South by Southwest, I went out of my way to go have dinner with Old Man Smithers and hang out with him because I think he's a cool dude. I think he's tremendously lost his way in terms of what we have going on within the ecosystem.
Pillar of salt, yes.
Yeah, no, I mean, I literally, I'm not even joking, I purchased salt shakers, and I'm going to carry one, and if I see him, he gets one. They have the little Gala logo on them and everything. And I've mentioned this before. At one point in time thought Lycan was the he at least worthy of buying plane tickets for, which again, as he likes to point out, he did pay me back for them, which wasn't requested, but to go to the Summer of Soul thing in New York, these are people that at one point in time I thought were pretty cool individuals, and I'm very bummed by the way that some of this goes. But the ecosystem continues to grow as long as the ecosystem continues to build stuff, and we're not going to stop. There you go. Yeah, perfect. We're not going to stop building things for the ecosystem and with the ecosystem. So I would invite everybody to come along and help build, or don't. It's up to you. But regardless, the tech is here, developments are happening, stuff is happening, building is happening, and you can either be part of it or you can, sit in an angry little box by yourself with a bunch of angry people. Your call.
All right. Well, I'm giving you the last word there. I very much appreciate you coming on and staying as long as you have and putting up with all these questions.
It's no big deal. Happy to.
Don't worry. I get flack too. I'm not as popular as you are, but I get flack because I don't come down as hard on you. I don't nail you to the wall and stuff like that. I just want to get an idea of how things work, and that's hard in this space because so many people have an agenda, so many people have a narrative, and I'm sure you're quite jaded by that as well. So
it can be frustrating at times.
I'd like to know.
Sorry, go ahead.
I personally don't take anything on Discord personally because they're just electrons. They're just pixels flashing on a screen as far as I'm concerned. But I know that you have a bit more investment in there. So
the thing that's frustrating to me is that over the course of the last 4 years, okay, I have put blood, sweat, and tears into this ecosystem. I have absolutely worked my ass off, sacrificed a lot to help grow this. So let me actually go find it really quick. I get these fun little things here. Where's a good example? Where did it go? Oh, come on. Oh, there he is. Spider Tanks is fucking garbage in its current form, and it's disgusting you are shilling NFTs for it still. Really not impressed with the constant pivoting and bullshit promises. The only thing that players have left are the bitter as fuck Korean whales and all their super crack pilots with their pay-to-win gear who insist on teaming up 3 deities and gold skins versus low-ranked noobs. On the 10 other players left trying to make a couple wins, just festering and going rancid. Good work. Gala Games, RIP. Take the money and pivot. Game after game, RIP. Luckily, you got our money. Fuck you and your games, fucking scammer. This is what I get, and it's interesting that like through all of this, okay, I have advocated for players. I have advocated for developers in specific cases irrelevant to this specific title. Like working with Patrick Bergman was the one who put together the entire reboot of this at the beginning of last year. We went absolutely to bat for players in this, and so what bothers me is to get this sort of shit because it's so bullshit, because we've fought so hard to support. I've fought so hard to support, you guys, some of these people that are sending me these shit messages.
What I hear in that, honestly, is that person not understanding what it means to grow and change an ecosystem and an economy. That's what I hear in that. Of course, the person's pissed off because they don't really understand that it's not pivoting, it's balancing.
Not even that. This person insists that Gala could make changes to the game anytime they want. Gala does not have the source code. That's literally the whole fucking point of the lawsuit.
Okay, so you're hitting it on a more fundamental level. Sorry, we can't change it right now. We wish we could.
We can't. Okay, I can't. Gala would if it could, but it can't. It's all there. You can go read it. It's just very frustrating. And so that's the thing, is that, all of the people at Gala and all of us who are now former Gala people at LFG, we are here because we believe in what is being built. And so, yes, when you say jaded, definitely a little bit, because some of that shit's hard, man. It's not pleasant.
Lycan just said here, Gala hasn't pivoted at all, Faz. I'm sure they have. But
Gala has pivoted on things. Of course, it has to pivot. It's how you fucking get from point A to point B. When you get in your car, okay, and you decide that you're going to go across the country, you encounter roadblocks, you encounter construction, you encounter random shit that requires you to.
Okay, that's fine, but you understand that when you're driving on the road, you're like construction, that the road is changing, whatever. Yeah. And I think when somebody says something like this, Gala hasn't pivoted at all, they're not understanding that pivots have to be made. And of
Absolutely.
course, they don't agree with the pivots that are being made. But that says to me that there's a lot more people out there that think that you're going to have the absolute plan in the very beginning, and it's going to remain rock solid, unchanging until the very end. And they thought that when they bought an NFT or whenever they started playing the game or whatever.
Never ever happened that way.
Okay, it's not, in one sense, it's not good enough to say, well, no, we never meant that. I would say it was not the best communicated. People, I mean, you make it your mantra. You say, look, we're just rolling with the punches.
Every single thing has always been like, hey, this is the plan. It might change. Every single time a plan has been expressed, it has come with well, this is what Gala wants to have happen, but it might change.
And those disclaimers have been on the Discord too. That
they're everywhere. And so you can look at that and you can get grumpy about it. And obviously people do. But the reality is that if you don't turn, okay, taking it back to the car analogy, if you don't turn, you're going to go straight into the back of, the mowing machine that is in the middle of the road, that is trimming the center divider. Okay. Like you have to move around stuff. You have to change. You have to go different directions, because if you don't, you get wrecked. That's how shit dies, is if you fail to pivot, that's when it dies. All
right. I have not asked all my questions, but I still think that we're done here, because you need to go to bed. You've been up late, and I need to go to bed. I've been up late. You have given much more time than you made it sound like you would give, and I very much appreciate that.
My pleasure.
And I'm glad I talked you down from that chip on your shoulder that you had in the beginning.
It's still there.
Okay. For everybody else, I'm letting him talk. I want to hear what he has to say. There is no right or wrong, or Faz getting owned or him getting owned. I just want to know the damn answers. And honestly, if anybody's gonna be owned, they're gonna own themselves. His answers are gonna be recorded here on YouTube from now on. So if he says something wrong and he totally rugged you, or not rugged you, if he totally was lying out his ass, it's going to be recorded here for posterity. So there you go.
And the other thing, I don't always know everything. Okay, I'm giving you these things to the best of my knowledge. I know, weird, crazy, right?
Is that your way of trying to get out of something you just said, whatever it was earlier?
I'm sure, definitely, for sure, because Lycan caught me, man, 100%.
Well, if Lycan said it, it was true, and you're just trying to weasel out of it. So ask him what giants they're fighting. No, I'm going to go because I'm tired. I very much appreciate you, and I know you won't even stick on past the end graphic, so I'll just type something at you in Discord.
Awesome. Peace out, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.